Okay, good morning, everybody, as we start the chitas of the day. So, we are holding the second reading in the portion of the A, and we are holding on chapter 12, verse number 11. And it will be the place that God will choose. God, your God, will choose L'shakin Shmei Sham. There'll be a place where God will ultimately choose to be there. Shama Tavias Kala Shanechem Etzaveschem. Over there, in that place, in the Beis Hamikdash, you shall bring everything that I command you today. Elisechem, which is your burnt offerings, Nivchechem, your sacrifices, Masrechem, your tithes, Trumas Yetchem, the separation of your hands. Those what you're going to give, as we mentioned before, the mitzvah Bikurim, the whole Mifchad Dedrechem, and all the choicey vows. Asher tidul Hashem, which you will choose, which you will vow to God. The Rashi says, at that time, when you build yourself the temple in Yerushalayim, and so the scriptures say concerning David, and it was when the king sat at the house of the Lord and given him rest from all his enemies surrounding him. David HaMelech said to Nathan, the prophet, David HaMelech said to him, "See, now I dwell in the house of cedars, and the ark of God dwells within curtains. We have to build a Beis Hamikdash." Shama Taviu. And above the verse 6, it says the expression, it states referring to Shiloh. But here it states referring to the Shalayim. Yeah, Moshe Rabbeinu prophesies something would happen hundreds of years later. Accordingly, scripture separates two to permit sacrifices on a bama during the intermediate period between the existing in one sanctuary and the other. After Shiloh was destroyed, and they came to Noiv and erected a Mishkan there, and then again, when Noiv was destroyed and they came to Givon, the sacrifice on a bama was permitted in between in the intermediate stages. Mitzvah nederechem. This teaches us one should bring offerings from the choicest. When you bring to the Beis Hamikdash, don't give your used objects, your leftover stuff. You give as a donation. When you come to give to the Beis Hamikdash, give the best. Verse 12 is you shall rejoice before God. You and your sons, b'nei sechem, and your daughters, v'avdechem, and your servants, v'masechem, and your maidservants, v'alevi asher b'shareichem, and the Levi that's in your gates. Because he has no part in your midst. So make sure he's happy. Beware, lest you offer up your burnt offering any place you see. Rashi says, well, he already told us this. But here the Torah wants to give you a leisasa. It wants to give you a negative if God forbid you do it. So some things you don't do Makayim are positive, and some things you not only don't do a positive, but you actually do a negative. That enters your mind, however, you may offer anywhere by the bidding of a prophet. And that's why the story of Elijah on Mount Carmel, he brought a sacrifice because he was a prophet, and he told the Jews that we need to bring a sacrifice, and then you're allowed to bring a sacrifice if the prophet tells you to bring a sacrifice. Verse 14. But only once the Beis Hamikdash is built, only in the place where God chooses. There you'll bring it up, and you will do whatever I asked you to do. So that's in one of your tribes, in the territory of Binyamin. The Beis Hamikdash was in the main part of the Beis Hamikdash was in the territory of Binyamin. And above it says, in the place which the Lord you will choose from all your tribes. How can they be reclined? David purchased the threshing floor later to become the temple site from Amnona the Jebusite. He collected the required gold from all the tribes. So all the tribes gave to the building of the Beis Hamikdash. However, the threshing floor itself was situated in the territory of Binyamin. Benjamin, who was honored to have the Beis Hamikdash in his chelek, in his part of Eretz Yisrael. However, in every desire, whatever your soul desires, you may slaughter v'achalta basa. You can eat meat in all your cities, which God has blessed you. In all your gates, unclean or a clean can eat. May eat. You allowed to eat meat. Whether it's a deer or it's a gazelle. Rashi says, what is the text speaking about? If you think that it is speaking about the non-sacrificial meat eaten to satisfy the appetite, to permit it for them without an offering up any sacrificial portion, we already have reference to this inscription. It says elsewhere, when the Lord your God expands your boundary, and you'll say, I will eat meat, you may eat meat, right? So we know we're allowed to eat meat. So what is the verse speaking over here about? The Torah tells us that you can eat meat. We know that already. So it's referring to animals designated for a holy sacrifice purpose that had subsequently become blemished. So the Torah, Gemara says, the Torah comes to teach us a different law. If you designate an animal to a sacrifice, and then it became a blemish, that they are redeemed, that is replaced by their equivalent value in money, and they may then be eaten anywhere. So once you redeem the sacrifice into another sacrifice, Tmura, then you can eat that animal. Now, one might think that that rule applies even if blemish is a temporary one. Therefore, Scripture says rak. There's a rak. When it says the word rak, only. Rak. So rak, when it's such a word, however, or only, literally only, this limits the permission to a permanent blemish. You may slaughter to eat the meat. You have permission to shear or milk the blemished animals, but only to eat the meat after ritual slaughter. So you have no permission to shear or milk the animal. You're allowed to sacrifice. You're allowed to shech the animal and eat it. Since they were formerly had a holy status, by which is stated, any flesh that touches unclean things shall not be eaten. It is necessary, so therefore they were once holy. So you might think only a holy person can eat this meat. Therefore, it's necessary to give explicit permission for both the unclean person and the clean person to eat it alike. Whether it's a deer or a gazelle, she'ain korban b'mem, because there's no. The Torah won't say it's like a deer and a gazelle. They're wild animals, which is non-domesticated animals, which you don't bring a korban. There's no sacrificial offering from a tzvi, from a deer, or from a gazelle. So these animals are not brought to the Beis Hamikdash. This comparison to a deer and to a gazelle exempts these redeemed animals from obligation of foreleg and the jaw and the maw, which in the Torah says you bring a korban, they belong to the kohen. There's also the deer and the gazelle are exempt from these gifts to the kohen, so too these animals are exempted. It doesn't make a difference. Blood is not allowed to be eaten. To spill it out in the ground, kamayim, like water. Although I said that these animals are not required to sprinkle the blood on the altar, you're not allowed to eat the blood of an animal. You shall split it in the ground like water. It sounds like an interesting expression. This comes to tell you that it does not require covering. So there's also a concept of kisui hadam, the mitzvah to cover the blood. And that it does not, even though these animals do not require kisui hadam. Another explanation, the phrase like water teaches us that like water insofar it renders seeds susceptible by receiving ritual uncleanness. So this comes to tell us that blood is like water. Blood is like water. They're just like water when it comes on vegetables. Now an unclean person touches it, it becomes tamei. So too blood comes on a vegetable, it now is susceptible for impurity. And that's what the Torah wants to tell us. Verse 17. You may not eat. You may not eat within your cities the tithe of your grain. Neither your wine nor your oil. The firstborn of your cattle, and your sheep, and all your vows, which you make, which you will vow, and the donations and the separations of your hand. So this we know already, because you have to bring to the Beis Hamikdash these things. So Scripture comes to attach a negative commandment again. So here, eating firstborn, tithing, and outside the walls of Yerushalayim. In addition to the positive commandment, you may not eat, you cannot eat. Rabbi Yeshua, the son of Karcha, said, you are able but not permitted to do so. Similar to this, the verse says, and to the Jebusites, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the children of Judah could not drive them out. They were physically able to do so, but they were not so permitted. Since Abraham made a non-aggression treaty with them when he brought the cave of Machpelah, that they wouldn't chase them out. In fact, they were not Jebusites of the Jebusite nation, but the Hittites. They were, however, called the Jebusites after the city named Jebus. So is to explain in Pirkei Avos Rabbi Eliezer. And this is with the status when David was about to drive the Jebusite side. They said to him, unless you take away the blind and the lame, you shall not come here. Referring to the images that stood in the gates upon which the oath that Abraham had been taken, the Jebusites were written. So he said, you cannot take away. So here, Rashi is all explaining to the word loisuchal, that you should do, that you cannot do it. You might be able to do it, but you cannot do it. So maybe you can eat it, but you're not allowed to eat it. Only in Yerushalayim. We're talking about the tithing. You're only allowed to eat it in Yerushalayim. There's a second tithing that you have to bring to Jerusalem called Maisa Sheni. This is the prohibition is addressed to the Kehanim, conscious of the tithing of your grain, since the Israelites never permitted to eat the firstborn, even within the walls of Yerushalayim. So that's your firstborn you have to give to the Kohen. This refers to the first fruits. It's amazing how you read a pasuk, and without Rashi, which brings you down the Gemara, you don't really know what the pasuk means. Verse 18, but you have to bring it before the Lord your God. This is talking about the second tithing. So it is called Maisa Sheni. So if you give a tithing, if you give Truma to the Kohen, and you give Maisa, which is a tithing, to the Levi, you had to take a second tithing, Maisa Sheni. And that you could have changed into money, or bring it to Yerushalayim, and eat its value or the fruit itself in Yerushalayim. That was called Maisa Sheni Yerushalayim. So this is what the Torah is talking about. The Torah is talking about Maisa Sheni, the second tithing. Second tithing of your fruits needed to be brought to Yerushalayim, need to be brought to Jerusalem and eaten in Jerusalem, whether it's the fruit itself or whether it's the value of the fruit. You have to bring it before the Lord your God in the place of the Lord. You, your sons and your daughters, and your manservants and maidservants, and even the Levite who lives in your cities. You bring joy, you should be happy before God, and all your endeavors. The Rashi says, had to be within the walls of Jerusalem. And the Levites who in your cities, if you have nothing to give him from his portion, such as the first tithe, that's the first tithing, then give him the tithe of the poor. And if you have no tithe of the poor, invite him to partake in the peace offering. So we know we have the mice again. There's the truma, that's the kohen. There's the mice That's the tithing. That's to the Levi. Then the Meiser Ani, the tithing for the poor, and then the Meiser Sheni. All these tithings that you had to take. So Rashi says that ultimately you don't have anything to give to anybody. Still, you should invite them, whatever you have. When you go to Yerushalayim, invite them to celebrate in whatever you have. The Torah was very worried about the Levites. You should forsake the Levites. Call your all the days of your life on the land. Now she says again, in addition to the positive command to take care of the tribe of Levi and give them their tithing and their kohanim, their truma, over here the Torah wants to add a negative. That if you don't do the positive, not only you haven't done the positive, you actually done a negative. On your land, and Rashi says this mitzvah is only in Eretz Yisrael. But in exile, you are not admonished regarding more than poor is than you only have today the mitzvah. That's what we don't do. Meiser, Truma, in Chutzlar, it's in out of Israel, we don't obligate to give Truma Meiser. So we do it symbolically. When we take challah, we take a piece of challah, we put it in and we burn it. But we don't have an obligation to do Trumas and Meises, to do tithings in Chutzlar, it's out of Israel. But most rabbis hold that today in Eretz Yisrael it's also only rabbinical, and therefore they do that. They do tithing. It's important that when you buy things from Israel, that you for sure you know that it was tithed, and you have to be careful to when you buy fruits from Israel that you know that it's tithed, and they do it. Special way of doing it today. They don't give the tithing to the Levi. They put it on money and the way of doing it. Verse 20. When God, your Lord, will expand your boundaries. Like he promised you. This is what Rashi mentioned before. That when you're going to expand your land and you're going to want to eat flesh, because you have a desire to eat meat. To eat meat. According to every desire of your soul, you can eat meat. So here, God was not against eating meat, and you're allowed to eat meat. The Torah wants to teach us proper conduct, that one should not desire to eat meat unless one lives in abundance of wealth. Interesting. In the desert, the meat of a non-consecrated animal was forbidden. That was different in the desert and in Eretz Yisrael. In the desert, if a person wanted to meat, he had to bring a carbon shlomim, and a peace offering. And then he got part of the carbon. He had the meat. But in unless he brought a carbon shlomim, a peace offering. So in the desert, the only way they could eat meat was only if they brought it. It was part of a sacrifice. So the eating of meat that was permitted was only in Eretz Yisrael. That's why you have this pasuk. Because it's going to be far away from you, the place. You might live in Tzvas. And that's the very distance from Yerushalayim. Therefore you shall slaughter from your cattle, from your sheep, which God has given to you. Here's the mitzvah of shchita. You have to have slaughtered the animal. And you may eat in your cities according to the desire of your soul. So Rashi says, you're far away and you consequently be unable to come and make a peace offering every day. And you're going to want to have a steak every day. And now you know, and you do now, when Mishkan goes along with you. So the Mishkan was near the Jews. It was very easy. You were always a mile away, the maximum mile away, or less than that even, to go to the Beis Hamikdash, to the Mishkan. So if you wanted to have steak, bring a carbon. And the Beis Hamikdash got it. God got, so to say, the Mizbeach got its portion, and the Kohen got its portion, and then the rest you went and took and eat. Now you live in the fire. Now we go to Eretz Yisrael, and now you're living in Tveria or wherever. You're living out of Jerusalem. You don't want to schlep a carbon. Rashi says, "Mezavachta kashetivisicha," you shall slaughter as I commanded you. We learn from here there's a commandment regarding slaughtering. It's very interesting because the Torah doesn't say openly the mitzvah of shchita, the obligation of shchita. It doesn't say it openly. Here you learn from it because it says kashivitzich, like I commanded you. That means that Moshe Rabbeinu taught the Yidden about shchita, how to shecht an animal, even though they didn't do that in the desert. For the 40 years of the desert, they didn't do that because they went to the Beis Hamikdash. So now Moshe Rabbeinu needed to, but nevertheless, Moshe Rabbeinu taught the Yidden how to do shchita. As the verse says, you shall slaughter, as I commanded you. So that means that Moshe Rabbeinu taught the Yidden about shchita, how one must slaughter. Since the commandment is not written in the Torah, we deduce that these from the laws of the ritual slaughtering given orally to Moshe on Mount Sinai. So that's, even though, again, there's no open place in the Torah that says you shall do shchita. So we learn the whole concept of shchita, that you're not allowed to eat an animal without shechting it from this verse. Verse 22. The deer and the gazelle are eaten. You may eat them, the unclean and the clean alike may eat meat. Not says over here, you're not admonished to eat them in a state of ritual purity. A person does not have to be pure to eat meat. However you will reason, just as the fat of the deer and the gazelle are permitted as food, so too the fat of a non-consecrated animal is permitted. Now the Torah tells us another law, and that is that you're not allowed to eat not only the blood, you're not allowed to eat certain fats of an animal. You're not allowed to eat blood, because the blood is part of the soul. You're not allowed to eat the soul with the flesh. Rashi says, however, be strong, do not eat blood. Since it's stated be strong, meaning resist temptation. So you learn that the Israelites were inclined to eating blood for whatever reason. Therefore, it's never to say be strong. Who wants to eat blood? Seems like they had an issue, that they want to eat blood. This is the words of Yehuda. Shimon, the son of Azizai, however, says, Scripture comes only to caution you and to instruct you that due to what extent you must be steadfast in fulfilling these commandments. If regarding to blood, which is easy to watch out for, since a person has no desire in it, a person usually gets sickened by blood. Who wants to drink blood? So if the Torah tells you on something that you don't like, the Torah tells you don't do it, you don't like it, why didn't the Torah tell me that don't drink blood? I don't want to drink blood without the Torah telling me that. If you see, wow, I get so many mitzvahs when I don't take blood. The Torah needed to strengthen you with admonition. How much more so must one strengthen oneself for all other commandments? So if it's something that I don't want to do, the Torah tells take strength. So surely the commandment that I don't want to do, the Torah tell me I need to take strength. This comes also to admonish a person if he eats Evim Nachai. Evim Nachai is eating a limb from a live animal. You're not allowed to eat it. Shall spill the blood like water. Ash says, why did you already know this? Just read this a couple of verses before. This is to admonish a person, l'dam hatamtsis, the last blood oozing from the incisions of a slaughtering. You're not allowed to eat blood. So it'll be good for you and your children after you. You will do what is proper in the eyes of the Lord. This is eating blood contained in the limbs. Here we go to the law. Here we know that the laws of salting, of getting all the blood out of it, out of the animal. Not only not to eat blood, not to drain the blood, but a Jew, we do salting. We salt the meat so that every aspect of blood is taken out of it. Really, the Torah prohibited the blood of the soul, which is the blood that comes gushing out from the animal when you shecht it. The rest of the blood is in the animal, so in the flesh of the animal. So therefore, we salt the meat, and we even take out any blood that's possible in the veins or anything that's in there. So go forth and learn the magnitude of the reward of observing the commandments. If in a case of blood, like you already learned, the Torah keeps on telling us not to eat blood. I mean, why did the Torah keep on telling us not to eat blood? So again, the sages say, go forth and learn the magnitude of reward of doing a mitzvah. If in the case of blood, which disgusts a person, he who abstains from ear earns merit, both for himself and his children, and after him. The Torah tells you, if you don't eat blood, it's going to be good for you and for your children. And it's good because you're doing what God wants you. You're doing what's pleasing to God. How much more so does it apply to abstaining from theft or immorality, after which man's soul does lust? So if the Torah tells you, I'm going to reward you for not eating blood, which I don't want to do anyway, started by it for sure. If the Torah asks me to do something which I do want to do, and I control myself, what's going to be the reward? Verse 26, however, your holy offerings which you have, which you will have, and your vows, you shall carry, that you cannot do in your cities, you have to bring it to the Beis Hamikdash. Although you are permitted to slaughter unconsecrated animals, I do not permit you to slaughter consecrated animals, Rashi says, and eat them in your cities without offering them up on the altar. Rather, you must bring it to the Beis Hamikdash. And you'll bring your burnt offerings, abbas of Adam, the flesh and the blood. Al Mizbach Hashem, that blood you can't spill. That blood needs to be brought up on the Mizbeach. Dam zivachecha yishpach al Mizbeach. And the blood of your sacrifice needs to be spilled on the altar. And then you can eat the flesh, whatever you're given for the sacrifice. Rashi did the sacrifice of a burnt of which flesh and blood on the altar, as it says, Habasa v'hadam, the flesh and the blood on the altar of the Lord. With respect to burnt offering, if there are peace offering, the blood of your sacrifice shall be poured on the altar first, and afterwards you eat the flesh. Our rabbis often deduce from the words, however, your holy offerings you shall carry. Comes to instruct us regarding the consecrated animals that are outside the land of Israel, as well as instruct us regarding animals that have been exchanged for other consecrated animals, and regarding the offsprings and other consecrated animals. All of these must be offered in Yerushalayim. You have to bring a korban to the Beis Hamikdash. Verse 28, Shamer Shamaitah, keep and hearken. All these commands, which I'm commanding you, so it'll be good for you, and to your children afterwards. Ad forever. You'll do what is good and what is right in the eyes of God your God. Rashi says, Shomer, keep and hearken to these words I command you. This term Shomer refers to the studying of the oral law. Since it's not written down, you must guard it with your innards. So it should not be forgotten. The oral law should not be forgotten. Shomer, as it says, for it's pleasant that you guard them, Tishmanei, in your innards. And if it's studied, you must understand and fulfill the commandments. But one who is not immersed in the study cannot immerse in the practice. You need to study. This means that the light of all commandments should be precious to you as a difficult command. Everything should be precious in your eyes. Hatoiv, which is good in the eyes of God, Ayashar, and which is proper in the eyes of men. That completes the Chumash of the day. We now go to Tanya. We are holding the seventh letter of the Geras HaKodesh of the holy letters of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe is explaining out of the letter with the verse Ashreinu Matev Chalkeinu Umanoyim Geiralein. How great is our lot, our portion. Manoyim Geiraleinu, how wonderful is our lot. So until now, the Rebbe explained the term our portion. How we have a portion through our diminution, but really ultimately through Yaakov Avinu. We are called Bnei Yisrael. So Yaakov Avinu, which is the attribute of truth, and which is the attribute, which is the concept of Torah, we have a portion. That's what we call the children of Israel, because we have a portion in the Torah. And that's Ashreinu Matev Chalkeinu, how great our portion is. Now we go to the next thing. Umanoyim Geiraleinu, how pleasant our lot. What means a lot? Lottery. This signifies something bestowed exclusively and merited only through a lottery. What does that mean? I'll explain. Though this manifestation of light through a person's involvement in Torah and commandments is equal to every individual in general, it's equal to every individual. Why? Because there's one Torah. We have one Torah. So we all have one Torah. We have one law. So everybody is obligated equally, and everybody needs to do every mitzvah like anybody else. So everybody needs to put on tefillin, all men and all people need to give tzedakah, and all the women should light Shabbos candles and separate chal. Everybody does the same thing. We're all equal in the aspect of every mitzvah Torah. All Jews are equal, obligated to study Torah, to observe its mitzvahs. Nobody can get around that. Torah, we have one Torah. And everybody is obligated, whether they're doing it or not doing it, whether it doesn't make a difference. Everybody has the same equal obligation. So generally speaking, the resultant, through the illumination from above is likewise drawn down equally to them all. And that's why that's equality. That's the beauty of the equality of the Torah, that we're all equal. Moshe Rabbeinu put on tefillin, I put on tefillin. We all kept kosher. We all keep Shabbos. We're all obligated to do everything equally. There's no difference between Moshe Rabbeinu and me in keeping the Torah. But what became now, that's a general statement. What became but if you want to go into particulars, we're not all totally equal in the aspect of the light radiated through the study of Torah and the performance of commandment. Not every nefesh, the lowest level of the soul, ruach, the spirit of the soul, and the higher level of the soul, and the neshama, yet a higher level of the soul is equal. The Asus Mangil Gulam Voyam is that depends on the period of time of their reincarnation and their coming to this world. What does that mean? Most souls of the present generation, this is a teaching of Arizal, that most souls of the present generation are incarnations of souls that have descended into this world in an earlier time. So Arizal wrote, there's no new neshams. We are all reincarnated souls. They descended once again in order to rectify some aspect of their previous incarnation. The degree of radiance of the soul receives from above through the performance of particular mitzvahs depends upon the era in which the soul finds itself in this world. We are called, the Gemara calls this generation Ikvis Mashiach. We're the hills of the Mashiach, the hills. So we're the hills of the, we are considered like the hills of the journey of the soul. The soul started off as the head, and now we're the hills of this body. And our sages of blessed memory quoted his question, with what commandment was your father most careful? Which the answer was, and they asked the sage, what was your father more careful with? What was his mitzvah? And his answer was the commandment of tzitzis, one of the sages. This means that the performance of this commandment kindled within this man a particular luminous revelation. And it was this godly light that inspired his scrupulous performance. That's why this sage knew that his father knew what was the mitzvah he needed. So even though he kept all mitzvahs, but he understood that this mitzvah, the mitzvah tzitzis, was the purpose of his soul coming to the world. Because there was seemingly in his incarnation something missing in the mitzvah tzitzis. So he came down to the world again to do all mitzvahs, but what he should be focused on was the mitzvah tzitzis. In the spirit of this teaching, and the view of the fact that the three root letters of the word zahir, which translated above as careful, also means illumination, zahir. The above quoted question about understanding has been understood by the Mittler Rebbe as follows: as a result of which commandment your father most luminous? Not what, so the simple Gemara we translated as what was your father careful with? According to Chassidus, the Mittler Rebbe, the second Lubavitcher Rebbe, he translated, what was your father more luminous with? He did all the mitzvahs, but what was the one that illuminated his soul? And he answered the mitzvah tzitzis. That means that Tana knew exactly what was the purpose of his neshama. Out of all the mitzvahs, what illuminated his neshama? And so too, not all generations are the same. So there's a what the Alter Rebbe is trying to say, the Chassidus is trying to teach you, that he's all trying to teach you, that there's a general purpose of Am Yisrael, which is Torah Mitzvah, 613 commandments. And then every soul has its specific mission. And we need to know our specific mission. Since we don't know, we have to be Zohar in every mitzvah. So just like there is a general and there's a specific mission, so too the specific mission of a generation. Lubavitcher Rebbe told us what is the specific mission of this generation. He made it very clear. Only the Rebbe can tell you what is the mission of this generation. Lubavitcher Rebbe said the mission of this generation is being Mashiach. That's the mission. He gave us the mission statement. This is the mission. Even though the mission is 613 commandments, the mission is Torah mitzvahs. I mean, what's the mission? Yeah, that's a general mission. But then there's a particular mission of every generation. So you can imagine, time of Yudan Nasi, his mission was to write the Mishnah. That was the mission. So this means, so not only did the soul differ, generations differ also. There have been generations where primary spiritual challenge was study of Torah. In other generations, it was charity and so on. So we need to know the mission. But we know the mission. The reason for this is that the souls of the generation are specifically illuminated by the performance of those two commandments. So this is our mission. This is our mission. So there's a general mission and there's a specific mission. There's a general mission that I have in life, and there's also a specific mission that I need to overcome it and I need to accomplish. Every one of us should try to figure out. Usually, the Alter Rebbe explained in Tanya. I don't know. I didn't finish this chapter reading, but the Alter Rebbe past explained in Tanya. How do you know what your mission is? Usually, it's the thing you don't want to do. It's usually the challenge that you have. Is you probably a specific mission. That's the thing you need to rectify. Even though you need to do 630 commandments, everything, there's a specific mission of my neshama. Specific mission to teach soul. Just take like a human being, the organs of man. Each organ has its particular thing function. Even though it's part of the body, the eye to see, and the ear to hear. So even though it's part of the entire body, the eye was made to hear, to see. The ear was made to hear. The mouth was made to talk. The brain was made to think. The heart was made to emotions. Why? Because there's a general body, and that's why this teaches us. For the general body to be healthy, every part of the body needs to be healthy. Because if one part of the body is sick, the whole body is sick. Even though it's one part of the body, it affects the whole body. Because the general is connected to the particular, and the particular, but each thing has its purpose. So the body can live on without the eye, but it doesn't work that way. So you need to have the general, but you need to focus on the particular. You're not going to go to a heart doctor for eye problems, and vice versa. So kar b'chol mitzvahs. So to each mitzvah, you can't say, I'm going to do this mitzvah, and it's going to overcome this mitzvah. I'll do generally good things. No, each mitzvah has its point. Each mitzvah has its thing. So it's like a part of the 630 commandments. It's part of the general thing, but each mitzvah has its purpose. So to each and every mitzvah has its own. It's called in Kabbalah, the commandments known the organs of God, of the king, just like the organs of a human being. They radiate a particular and distinct light, and the infinite light of Ein Sof. Even though every Jewish soul needs to be reincarnated. The Rizal says, why does a soul need to be reincarnated? Because every soul needs to do 630 commandments. So, therefore, even in the time of Beis Hamikdash, every soul needed to be ultimately a kohen to do the mitzvahs of kohuna. Right? I'm not a kohen. How did I do the mitzvahs of kohuna of a priest? If I'm not a kohen, so I have to reincarnate to become a kohen. If I'm a man, a woman, etc. So all these mitzvahs, how does one do all these mitzvahs if not that they're going to be reincarnated to be able to do every mitzvah? So that's the whole concept of reincarnation, according to the Arizal. It's a positive thing in essence. That the Eibishter gave a capability for a soul to do every mitzvah. If God would not reincarnate the soul would not be able to accomplish every mitzvah. Because as I said, for example, if he's not a kohen, he will not be able to accomplish the mitzvahs that a kohen needs to do, or that a Levi needs to do. Or one time his soul is a sage. The next time his soul might be a simple individual. The third time his soul might be a wealthy person. So the soul needs to go from level to level to be able to accomplish every mitzvah. So therefore, how then can we say a soul that descends in this world is given a period, in a given period received its godly illumination as individual request, thereby necessitating particular scrupulous and specific command. This heightened attention focus on a particular commandment is necessary only for the sake of an additional measure of vigilance and zeal. B'yesa says, b'yesa days. A zeal doubly and exceedingly elevated and powerful. The Maila Mizishan mitzvahs, far surpassing one's zeal in the fulfillment of other commandments. And this is the word most, fei, used in the above quoted Gemara. When he was asked, what is the commandment was your father most carefully? Scrupulous observance indeed applies to all commandments. Question is, which command earned his focused attention? Is not this superiority of this individual light that is bestowed upon an individual soul to the performance of a particular commandment. That thing, that is not coming, that's connected totally to the soul. I can understand why a Jew has to do all mitzvahs. Why does my neshama need to do this mitzvah? That doesn't make any logic. This transcends it. This was for thus arose in God's thoughts, so to speak, that a certain soul be granted additional illumination through the performance of a particular command. That's a goydel. And the model below for this concept of that your neshama, my neshama, has a specific journey, that's a goydel. That's a lot. The fact that one person wins a lot while other person does not is likewise not a category of reprehensible reason. Rather, so it has been deemed above. As the verse states, the lot is a cast into the lap, and from God is it this position. This then is the meaning how pleasant is our lot. We all have a chelik in the Torah. We all have a chelik in the Torah. But we have to rejoice not only in the general chelik, the general part of Torah mitzvahs. We need to realize the greatness of what the Eibishter gave each and every one of us, particularly to overcome and to be successful in.
What's a chelik, Rabbi?
Of the godly illumination to a specific soul, to the performance of a select command. That is, this is your avodah, this is your purpose, is wholly dependent upon consideration of transcends logic. It's a lot that's determined from above. What is your question?
What is a chelik?
Chelik is a part. Ashreinu matev chalkeinu. How great is our portion? We are all have a portion in the Torah, and we all have a portion in God's mitzvahs. The Eibishter gave us a portion, and we have to be happy in being part of Am Yisrael, being part of the Jewish nation, being part of the Torah that God gave to us equally, and that's what we have to ashreinu. We feel it as a merit that the Eibishter gave us all the commandments together, and we all have to follow the commandments. We all need to do the command. We should feel it as an unbelievable part. That's a burden, but it's an unbelievable gift that God gave each and every one of us. And then the manoim goraleinu, we have to be how beautiful is my personal mitzvah. How beautiful is my personal, not only that I'm part of the general picture, the general Bnei Yisrael. That's the chelik, because we're part of Bnei Israel. We then have to realize how pleasant is our personal shlichus, our personal purpose in this situation. That even though we are part of the general, each and every Jew has a personal purpose. As mentioned in the Gemara, That they asked the sage, what was illuminated your father's soul? What was the mitzvah that illuminated his soul? Even though he did all the mitzvahs, but every soul has a personal mitzvah, and that is a lot. That is the concept what's given to you by Min Hashemayim. A lot of mean doesn't mean that it's by chance. There's nothing by Jews by chance. A lottery means that it's given to above knowledge. That's the meaning of a lottery. What means that means everything else I have a knowledge about. I can understand it. I'm a part of the Jewish nation. I've been born that way. I can come and rationalize it. But that my mitzvah is to do X, or my mitzvah is to do Y, or my mitzvah is that enhances my soul is to do, that's a gift. There's no rationalization. That sage said, my mitzvah is tzitzis. He didn't say my mitzvah is tefillin. No, but he knew that his mitzvah was tzitzis. Or to say that this generation is the generation of the coming of Mashiach. Why? Why wasn't it the previous generation? Why wasn't it 2 generations ago? Why wasn't it 3? That is a gift. That is a lot to Malam Seichel, because that's what Lubavitch Rebbe said, and that's what it is. So that's a lot. That's it. Even though that's brought up cities, the previous generation maybe we were better, and maybe they were holier, and maybe they did things different. But this is what the Eibishter wanted. It was the Mashiach of this generation would be the generation that would herald in the Messianic times. That is the personal, the specific agenda of this generation. That is my Yafa Yerusha saying how beautiful is our life.
Yeah. Wow.
God bless you all. Beautiful thing. And as I said, the trick is to find out, not a trick, but the real concept is to find out what your purpose.
Yeah.
The purpose of your neshama. What did Abish to give you? Brought out your neshama besides the Jannah. Abish sent down your neshama to do Torah mitzvahs. That we know. Every one of us, that God sent us down on neshama to bring us to the world and to do Torah mitzvahs. So we all know that. But what is the specific out of all the 613 mitzvahs? What was the most important thing? What is your agenda? And that's very important. So that we learn in Torah that, you take the mashal that Rashi gives. Rashi says, you take a diamond cutter and he becomes a baker. Now, being a baker is important too. Nobody's putting down the bakers union. Being a baker is important. Nobody's taking away its importance. We need our bread. But to take a diamond and he becomes a baker is not right. It's incorrect. And the diamond cutter needs to cut diamonds. The baker needs to bake. They're both important. To change it over, to make the baker a diamond cutter, that's all he's doing. To make the diamond cutter a baker is basically incorrect. And you're not doing what is right. You're having injustice. And therefore, you need the diamond cutter needs to put his avodah in diamond cutting. That's what his personal his neshama came down for. And not become a baker. The baker needs to be the baker. We have to know what is the purpose of our neshama. So even though we do everything, but we don't take our talent and do something else, because we don't want to focus on what we really need to, what the Eibishter brought down our specific talent to be able to accomplish something in this world, whether it's talent in Gashmis. Over here, the Alter Rebbe Self is talking about the talent in Ruchnias. What is the mitzvah? What is that mitzvah that illuminates my soul? That through that illumination, my soul illuminates my world, illuminates the world, my world and the world. That is given to Min Hashemayim. The Eibishter gave that to you from heaven. Don't lose it. We're holding the 24th day of the month of Av, and the Tillim of the day is 113 to 118. 113 to 118, which is actually the Hallel and the Tillim. And if you do that today, we'd have done the Tanya, Chumash Tilim Tanya of the day, the Chitas of the day. I wish you all a beautiful, wonderful, happy day. And we'll see you all tomorrow, Mitch, as we'll continue the Tanya, the Chitas of the day. We'll see you all tomorrow at 8 a.m.
Thank you.